Probably the number one thing that I get since leaving Trinity Church and speaking out on my story is, why didn't I deconstruct from Christianity? And I get messages, I get comments left and right telling me, you literally witnessed how destructive Christianity is, or you witnessed how destructive religion is. How could you still call yourself a Christian after going through these experiences? And before I get into my response, I do want to say I'm obviously not a perfect Christian, and none of us are. When I left Trinity Church, I didn't just move on to another church all fine and, perfect in my faith. Absolutely not. There was a lot of times after Trinity, with what I experienced under Mark Driscoll, his leadership, everything with his family, everything I witnessed at Trinity Church, it did hurt for a while. And I did question my faith. I questioned if I wanted to be a part of this thing called Christianity. And that led to me going down a long rabbit hole of, am I really saved? How to know you're really saved? Getting books on, can you lose your salvation? And now, obviously, I'm not going to talk about those in this video because I'm sure many of you, as well as myself, can debate on these topics for hours. But the point is to say, I did have moments after Trinity where I really doubted what I was a part of and my faith. Now, what was my issue? Well, my issue was I grouped everything together. I grouped my view on church. I grouped my view on God with what I experienced at Trinity, what I experienced under Mark Driscoll and other men at the church in trusted positions that are supposed to be leaders of the people in their congregation, when they betrayed that trust. And when you're in something like this, something like Trinity that I consider a cult, for months, and they condition you that this is your family, this is your church, Pastor Mark is God's pastor, and it's frowned upon if you go to any other church or listen to any other pastor. It's either you're in Trinity or you're not in Trinity. After being conditioned to believe that and getting kicked out of something like that, you feel like, okay, I was just betrayed. But the switch that eventually came back to me through picking up the Bible again, talking with mentors, just researching, getting so many books and reading on the subjects of church hurt specifically, I came to the realization that Driscoll and Trinity is not at all a representation of Christ whatsoever. And church is not a building. I mean, we have this idea nowadays that we drive to this building on Sunday, we go in, we worship, we hear from a pastor, and then we go home and do whatever. That is not church. I mean, the Bible is clear that where two or more are gathered in my name, I am there. When you're at a group study and you guys are all sitting around and you're reading the word, that's church. Or if you and a friend are out for coffee and you're talking about the Bible or something you learned about Christianity over the past week, that's church. Church does not mean going into a building and listening to a pastor preach for an hour. That's the biggest misconception of Christianity in 2026, in my opinion. And while preparing for this video, I was reminded of Matthew 23, and this is an amazing passage. This is Jesus literally speaking to the scribes and Pharisees. These are the hyper-religious people, the church leaders. These would be mega church pastors in 2026, in my opinion. And in 27, Jesus says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites," he calls them, "for you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and all uncleanliness. So you also outwardly appear righteous to others, but within you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness." In the symbolism of Jesus saying a whitewashed tomb was polished, it was clean, it was beautiful, and then you would walk inside the tomb and it's rotting and there's death and there's human bones all over the place. Obviously not good on the inside. And when it clicked with me what Jesus is saying, which is basically, you have mastered being righteous on the outside, but you're hiding your corruption within, that's when it clicked with me that I wasn't hurt by Jesus. I wasn't hurt by God. I wasn't hurt by the Bible. Every single thing that happened to me at Trinity was because of man. It was because of Mark Driscoll. It was because of other people in leadership, the people that were protecting Mark, who's at the top of this pyramid. It wasn't God that hurt me, it was man. And Jeremiah 7:15 says, "Cursed is the one who believes in man, but blessed is the one who trusts in Jesus Christ." Now, it was another hard-hitting moment for me because at Trinity, all we were doing was serving Mark. We would sit around, all the people on staff, we'd get in a big circle on stage, and Driscoll and his family would sit or stand in the middle, and we would all be around him, and everyone is praying over him. There wasn't prayer for anyone else on the team. There wasn't prayer for the worship leader that was going to get up and play. There wasn't prayer for the students. It was prayer for Mark Driscoll. Everyone in that cult served Mark Driscoll. They served man. And the Bible, as I just read in Jeremiah, commands us to trust in the Lord. Do not trust in man. And God says that because God knows that we are sinful in our nature. God knows that we are going to be hurt by other people, whether it be physically or emotionally. But God is so much greater than the pain that any man can inflict on you, especially within a church. And God says himself when he's speaking through the prophet Isaiah, "Some men honor me with their lips, but their hearts are very far from me." Now, I can talk on the subject for hours, but I want to end on this specifically for people that have been through similar experiences or have deconstructed or left the faith. You don't have to go to church to be a perfect Christian. Now, obviously, is it better to be around community on a Sunday morning and be around other Christians listening to the word rather than being at home laying in bed? Obviously, it's definitely better to be around community. And the biggest piece of advice I would give people going through something similar is to put a God above your experience. I mean, we have to remember Adam and Eve before us sinned. It is now in our nature. We have a sin nature. And you can go to any church in the world, any single church. You'll never find a perfect church. You'll never find a perfect pastor. All that to say, because we are human and we cannot be perfect. God is perfect. God is just. And ultimately, one day, every single one of us, whether you're a pastor, whether you're a regular congregant, whether you're a great pastor or whether you're a terrible pastor, we are all going to answer to God one day. And thanks be to God that I was pulled out of the situation and that he was there to comfort me, and that I realized I don't need to rely on man, because if you have God and he is for you, then no one can be against you.